Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight, and we're going to have a word of prayer, and then we'll do the pledge to get started. So let's pray. Father, we thank you for this night. God, I thank you for this school. God, I thank you for the blessings that you've given us. God, you've blessed us at this school system, and I just thank you for that. Now, God, I ask tonight as we have this meeting that you would have our minds to be open. God, that you would give us wisdom to make the best decisions for this school, and to God, just to listen to the things that are said, and just so we can make the best decisions. I thank you for the administrators and everything they do here for our children. Now, God bless this night. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first item on our agenda tonight is the House Bill 581.
Again, good evening to those of you who have come out tonight for this second hearing. We appreciate your attendance. I want to start off the presentation by showing a timeline just to make sure our community knows that we followed the actual guidelines that was given to us by legislation. So for us as superintendents, we kind of start talking about this in August and September, and they told us to get with our boards and make sure we educate our boards and give them all the information that we had coming in to us, and then have a decision in December, because we couldn't take any action prior to 2025. So it was just talking, discussing, and seeing the ins and outs of that particular bill. So January 1st, when in December the board decided to intend to opt out. We did not opt out. It was the intent to opt out so we can have these hearings so we can hear from you. So no decision has been made to opt out at this point. Again, we want to hear from you before making that final decision. So right now, between January and February, we have advertised it in the paper twice already for both meetings, today and next week, and so it has ran the full week in the paper, and we have until March 1st to make that final decision and have the paperwork sent in to the Secretary of State's office. Okay, and that resolution must be sent to them. If it's postmarked by March 1st, we're still good, but anything after March 1st, then we automatically are opted in. So if we don't do the process, we're automatically in, regardless of anything that's wrong on the paperwork. All right, so that was given to school superintendents, this document here. So I made a timeline for the public and for everyone watching so that you know exactly what we've been doing. November the 5th, there was an election, and this is just Lincoln County, not the state. So Lincoln County voted 58% yes to opt in to House Bill 581, and then 41% of our community voted no on that referendum to actually on House Bill 581. So on December 10th, we had a board meeting. I presented the same presentation with some additions to them explaining 581 and all the details in it. Again, no official action. We just said we were going to intend to opt out so that we can have these hearings. And then in January, we decided to move forward and to say, hey, let's have it. Let me back up. January 14th, we intend to opt out. So nothing was done in December. I apologize. No official action in December, just conversation. And then the board meeting last month, we decided to intend to opt out of House Bill 581. Documents were sent to the paper on the 17th, and it appeared in the Lincoln Journal on the 23rd. So that's a full week that we needed to have in the paper to have a meeting today, today and tonight. Our second meeting is right now at 6 o'clock. Our first meeting was at 8:30 this morning. We had to run a second advertisement this week, today, so that it'll be in this week's paper for next week's meeting. So I wanted to show you the timeline to show you that we adhere to the timelines that were in the actual law. All right, get to the PowerPoint. All right, so House Bill 581, it was designated as the floating homestead exemption, and it was also called Save Our Home Act. And so, of course, reading that on the legislation that you voted for, Save Our Homes Act, most people would look at it and say, yes, we're going to vote for it. So we just want to talk some pieces from that particular bill. Our legislators understood the rising costs in property values, which would be rising costs on your tax bill. So they knew that. They wanted to do something. And granted, we wanted to do something as well. And of course, because these people up here, including myself, we're taxpayers too. And so we saw the increases in our tax property bills. So the state really wanted to do something, so they created House Bill 581. But there are some things in 581 that we need to discuss. All right. So this particular bill will limit the increase in property taxes, no higher than inflation. Okay. So while that's good on one hand, the revenue streams for the school board is through taxation, through local taxpayers. So in that case, if the revenue is not coming in as in the past, then we may have a shortfall. So that's a concern for the school board, that less monies will be coming in to us. Now, for whatever reason, in the legislation, they gave the city, the county, and the schools they gave us the option to opt out. Okay? That's in the language. And for school systems, we can't make it up with a SPLOST tax. In the legislation, the county and city could use a SPLOST for the shortfall. So it seems like they knew there may be a shortfall and gave them a way out, but they didn't give the school system a way out. And this is all in the language. School systems could not use a SPLOST to make up the shortfall. So as a result of that, the school system really needs to look at, if we lose an enormous amount of money, how we're going to make that money up. Okay? All right, so part of the law talks about reassessing instead of every 5 years, as the previous law states. Now reassessments must be done every 3 years. I will tell you, in my meetings with superintendents across the state, some of their districts hadn't even had an assessment in 17 years, 15 years, 10 years. And so I don't know how that happens. And again, they told me there is no police who polices when things are assessed. So, but again, I do think our tax assessor has done a great job in doing it more often than the actual law states. Again, city and county governments can create a SPLOST for the loss of revenues from this to make up for it. I actually printed the actual language that was on the actual document. No, that's not it. Yes. So this is what you voted on in November. Okay. And again, part of that amendment said local systems may opt out, and this is where we are now. All right, let's talk some data. Last year, the average taxes levied increased by 11%. I am well aware that's an average, and that some of you may experience 20, 30%, some may experience 5%, but the average was 11. So we're going with 11%. So that 10.92%, almost 11%, generated $6.1 million for the school district. If we were under House Bill 581 and used the consumer price index at 4.1%, that would have brought in $5.7 million, which is a difference of $377 of lost revenue stream for the district. Okay, as you can see on this chart too, you can actually see the millage rates and how over the past few years, that is year 2019, the millage rate was at 17, and currently you see the fluctuations, and this year's current millage rate is 14.579. So that's what these people up here do. They look at how much money is needed to run the school system and then levy that millage rate based on that. This is the document that was given to school systems, city municipalities, and county governments of a way to determine how much money you would lose if House Bill 581 was adopted. I won't use the cumulative total, I'll just use last year. So based on last year's number, and I think I just showed you in the previous, we would have lost $377,000 in potential revenue. And this is the formula. We can go through the formula if you want to, if anybody have any questions. But this is just a starting point for the district. How do we make up $377,000? I will go ahead and add that we receive equalization. We don't know every year. We find out in April, May, if we're going to receive equalization. This year, Lincoln County School District received $575,000 in equalization. Okay, so let's say we don't receive that money and we opt in, and then we don't have this revenue stream. So that's almost $1 million next year's budget. So we just have to make these decisions based on the numbers that we're given, and it's a possibility. And right now, we don't know if we're going to get equalization. Last year, we were number 67. They rank districts in order of wealth. We were number 62, I think, and the cutoff was at 53. So you see how close we were. And depending on the tax digest of other counties, it could change every year. There's some years we got it, and some years we didn't. And we won't know until April or May. We just won't know. So that's a decision we have to make. All right, so what I tried to do is show individual homes if we opt in and if we opt in the current law. So let's just use this example here. If your house increases $25,000, if the property value increased $25,000 from your $200,000 last year, you see the assessed value is $225,000. Well, House Bill 581 says if the consumer price index is 5%, multiplies that times the 200,000, then your assessed value now is $210,000 versus the $225,000 based on your increase in your increase in the market rate. So now you would be valued, or the assessed value would be on the 210 and not the 225. Take the assessed value of that 210 and it is 84,000 minus the floating exemption would be 15,000, and then the net taxable is 69,000. Thank you. I have my glasses on. And so you would, at the millage rate current of 14.579, that person or house would pay $1,005.95. Okay? So let's look at that same example under the old law. So your house goes up 25,000 times assessed value. Assessed value is 90,000 compared to 84,000 here. And the exemption right now on the homestead is $2,000. Net taxable, 90 minus the 2,000 is 88,000. Same millage rate, and that's $1,282.95. So a difference of $277 from opting out. Okay? If you have questions, just let me know after we do comments. So again, pros and cons of House Bill 581. The pros of opting out is that we can maintain local control. With a stable revenue, opting out allows us to maintain a more predictable revenue stream from our property taxes. These people up here, again, look at our budgets, look at what we need, and then make the millage rate, sets the millage rates to make sure that we can still function. Our resource preservation, avoiding the potential revenue cuts preserves the high quality of education in Lincoln County. And I think all of us in here can pretty much vouch for that we have a great school system. Not just academic, but athletics, our fine arts program. We do a great job here in Lincoln County compared. So we want to make sure we continue to have those funds to provide these educational programs. Our salaries for staff, and 85% of our budget is staff, is people. So when we talk about cutting, and cutting at $300,000 levels, you're talking about cutting people and cutting programs. There's so many supplies you can cut, but the real meat of it will come from people. So we want to make sure that we keep the people necessary in the programs, and then we have to upkeep our facilities as well. We do have an aging elementary school. We have things, of course, HVAC units go out, and so we still have to have funds to keep those going. All right, and our reduced tax rate adjustments, the fewer fluctuations in revenue means the districts may not need to adjust the millage rates. Again, these people will make their decisions on the millage rate based on what we have, and not that the state is doing this and we have, our local has to do this. It's one stream. Our local tax dollars, we set the millage rate. We are well aware of the con of opting out. That's why you're here. We're well aware that higher property taxes is why you're here. We have to do something, and we know that this is unpopular, and we know there's a strain on all of us as taxpayers. So we know that the legislators had good intent in reducing the tax burden on everyone, But the way the bill is currently written, again, we just have some concerns about that. All right, we've kind of talked about this already. 3 public hearings. We've advertised it in the paper. It has to be 1 week, and it also tells us how big the advertisement has to be in the paper. And we've done that on the website and in the paper. Has to be filed by March 1st to the Secretary's office. I do want to mention something that is getting some traction in the legislation now, House Bill 92. So if you want to go look at that, it is passed unanimously out of the House Ways and Means Committee. The author of House Bill 92 is the chairperson for that committee. And he wants to extend the deadline from March the 1st to May the 1st. So we're a little apprehensive that if we wait till May 1st and this bill hadn't passed and March 1st passes, then we're automatically in. And again, sometimes the House and Senate, and they don't wrap up until the end of April, and sometimes the 1st of May. So the session could still be going on, and our job, I believe our goal is to finish by March 1st, whatever we decide. Final notes. We've already talked about the high tax bills and property tax assessments, and we understand what the legislators were trying to do. I really want the trust in these ladies and gentlemen up here and myself to make sure that we do what's best for Lincoln County, and that we set the millage rate on what's best for our citizens. We don't need the state telling us how to leverage the taxes. Lincoln County people are levying the taxes for Lincoln County and setting the millage rate for Lincoln County. This is Lincoln County. This is our community. And again, we really don't care about the neighboring county. We want to do what's best for Lincoln County. Back in December, I will say, this is just for information, that Georgia School Superintendent Association surveyed all the superintendents in the state and said, which way are you leaning, opting in or opting out? And so 78% at that time said they were opting out. Just by visiting websites over the past couple of days, I would still say that 78% or higher that school boards are opting out and having these same hearings that we're doing tonight. These are some documents that you can click on. This is available on our public website. If you want to click on these, it's all documents in relation to House Bill 581. I did want to make note that I don't know if everybody knew this, but we already in Lincoln, well, not Lincoln, but the state has exemptions for people over 62 if they make a certain amount, 65 if they gross a certain amount, and if you're a veteran. So those, I think some people are confused that, some people on fixed incomes, it's going to hurt them, but there are means for them to be able to have an exemption for that. And part of those documents are here under Lincoln County exemption page. So you can actually see the actual exemptions for all of those groups. Mr. Chair?
Do we have any questions or comments from the board before we begin with the? Okay. All right, we'll entertain comments or questions from the floor. We would ask that you would state your name and your address, and we'll entertain your questions or comments. Mr. Bill?
You want me to stand up or just sit here?
That's up to you.
Either way I can do it. Bill Hunter, live up at Savannah Bay, 1010 Nautical Point. I got a question. One of them is what was the homestead exemption for? Anybody? What was the purpose of the homestead exemption?
It was to save money to the taxpayers as far as
to save money, but who did it affect the most? The senior citizen. That's, if you ever looked at it, the percentages over 48 to 55%. I went and did my own research, and it was for the senior people. Now, after a certain age, you have all these other exemptions that I'm aware of. I just find it kind of hard to accept it that we want to opt out so that you can raise taxes on the average citizen, because that's what you're fixing to do. There's no way that I can stop you from doing it, because if y'all voted in, it's a done deal. The school board has selected. I just have the concern. But you brought up something else that really got me thinking. You receive a certain stipend, is it, the monies? What was it last year? You know?
Equalization?
Yes, sir.
575,000.
Okay, so you're worried that you may not get that this year, correct?
Correct.
Okay. What if you do? You've already said you're wanting to opt out, and that is to preclude losing that money. Well, what if you don't lose it? What's that money going to do now?
You ask me now?
Yes?
Okay, so again, just think about it in your own bank account, and that's the way I look at it. I don't know if I'll get it, so services will be impacted, and we don't budget for that. And so again, if it comes in, then we keep the fine programs that we have going on in the people.
Yes,
So
but
I will cut programs if necessary. So what you're asking me is, I don't know if we're going to get it, and if I knew we we're going to get it, then that changes the decision. And I see where you're going with that.
But that's what the
It's too-
rollback is for. The rollback. That's
So we
what
can
part
help
of
you.
rollback.
so have you had a rollback lately?
Every year we look at it. Is that right?
Every year you're looking at it. Have you had one?
We rolled it back half a
Yeah,
mil
pull
this
it- we
past
just
year.
rolled
Pull it
back
back
half a
up
mil.
Yeah, we just rolled it back half a mil this past year. And we don't take any more than we need, but we
the
take
point
what we
being-
need.
But the point being, if the money goes into the kitty, as I call it, and you get that money, that equalization, where does that money go?
We can help you out by not raising those funds.
So
Look at the millage rate, what it's done. It's gone from 17 to 16 to 14.
But
It's
I'm trying
changed.
I'm just letting you know that when people are sitting here, I hear what you were saying, and I understand it to a point. But if I'm already getting so much money, and then you're going to opt opt out of this, and our taxes will go up, and next year you get the same thing, money again, where's that money going? Is it for increases? And if so, how? I'm just making a point that it's kind of hard to understand that if you're already getting a equalization, okay, of monies, but you don't know every year, year to year. I could support it if you wasn't going to get it next year.
If, and see,
But
I
if
get
you
it.
do, then what's going to happen?
And you're
gonna
pushing
go
the
ahead-
point that if we get it, and I still have to look at if we don't get it.
Okay, so
As-
next year, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to look to see if you got that equalization, plus you've increased the taxes. Will I see a rollback?
We
Will
would
you
hope,
promise, will
I
you
can't promise,
Then-
because I don't know what's gonna come through
Then-
next year.
Then, sir, I couldn't support that because you're not able, if I'm to trust you, you need to be trusting me. You need to be able to say, okay, I will roll back if we get this other money and this tax here.
I can assure you that these people up here, we look at that, we have 3 budget hearings. And we look at that, and you can come at the same time and bring the same argument, hey, you got the 575, and you got this, and then it comes, and then we look at it, can we roll back to the rollback rate? Again, I can't say what's gonna come in July. I don't know what's coming down the pipe from legislation, and you made a very good point, but that's when we will look at that. If we get this 575 and this other money, I understand your point, but you're still throwing out unknowns. But we have to be prepared for the unknowns. And our goal is to help you out if we have the money. We don't want to hoard the money. I'm a firm believer in the money should be used for the kids now, that we don't hoard it, and then give relief to the taxpayer.
We did find out one unknown, and we know it now. So if you look on 2022 right there, tax year 2022, that one there, it says the mill rate was 13.39. So the formula for equalization, I think we're 99% sure if your millage rate is under 14, you're automatically kicked out. And we did not get equalization funding that year. So we have to keep the mill rate at 14. Otherwise, we're automatically kicked out. Is that not right?
And there's legislation now in the House that they want to reduce that number from 14 mills to 10 mills. They had it last year. It did not get to the governor's desk. But now they're trying to get that done so that we could lower it even more to help out the taxpayers. But those are some situations right now, it's still an unknown until it's passed.
It's just the fact that when you start getting older, you get into your 70s and 80s, your income doesn't increase. It decreases compared to the average inflation. Now we're gonna tack on to us, those of us that are 65 or older, now I'm gonna pay additional tax. And I don't make that much money type of deal. You understand? It's taxing, and you've heard it before, I know it. It's taxing people out of their homes that they can no longer afford because of taxes. And I don't want to see that. And if you can't turn around and look at it from our point of view in reference to that money, I'm sorry, it's like I said, government officials, everybody knows it. If they get this much more money, then what are we going to do with it? Well, we'll spend it. And then they'll wait for the next year, and the same thing. So it'll never happen that you would roll anything back for us.
Well, again, you gotta look up here, we have.
We
Look.
have.
I've seen that, but it's not always a constant. Taxes here in Lincoln County have gone way up, if you haven't looked at it. If you hadn't looked at your property, they have gone slap.
We
up.
all pay taxes.
And that, a lot of
every
that was
one
the
of us.
assessment. A lot of that was your
Sir, I
assessment.
didn't say-
We're not going up on our, I mean, it's not like ours is staying the same when we're going up on yours. We're going up on ours too.
Understand.
We don't wanna pay taxes.
But didn't y'all say 56% of the people opted in? 58% opted to
They
stay
voted.
in it?
The vote.
Voted.
Yeah.
No,
Voted
the vote,
to
the
stay
ballot.
in it?
In Lincoln County.
Then why are y'all going against what the majority of the people wanted?
It's almost like, why did the legislators even put opt-in in there?
That's what I don't
And then give the
understand.
county a way to make up the money because they knew the county was may have a shortfall. So in writing this, they kind of knew. But schools districts, we don't have that option to create a splot for the shortfall. So why would they even put in case you have a shortfall?
That's what
In
I'm
case,
at. I'm
why would,
having a-
I mean, why would you give us the option to opt out? And again, I just looked at it before we came in and just looked at the whole bill and how the months that it went through the House and Senate, and it was back and forth. And so by the time the final bill came through, I really believe they rushed it in there, and we have a bill that is not a good bill. And so that's, for me, it's hard to support a bill that's not good. I do believe in this session, they're gonna try to fix it. And now we still have to go through all these hearings, and we could look a month from now, and they could take out the opt-out clause, or they can write a new one, and that we can't opt in. So we look like the bad guys up here based on this legislation. And it's not fair to us when we know, showing you the loss of revenue we may face, but we have to make a decision with what we have. And based on last year, if this happened, if House Bill 581 was here last year, we would have lost $377,000. And that's what we kind of know based on projections.
And I don't understand why they would put something on there for you to vote on, or for all of us to vote on, and then give you the option to opt out of it. You know, if it's something that is put in there for the county to vote on, and the county voted basically 58 to 41%, why then do you also have the option to opt in or opt out? Why is it just not put into law?
So
I don't get that.
So Jamie, who put it in there to vote on?
I mean, it's come from the legislation, come from the government.
Okay, so the government is looking after us as well. You wanted to know what our opinion was, and we said opt in, 58%. You're telling me that y'all can change it and say we're gonna opt out.
Yeah, why didn't they make it a law and we wouldn't have any choice?
Well, that's one of my
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
That's one of my biggest questions, and I tell you what, I will try to find out and let you know. There's some numbers I can call and figure out with them what we need to look at. I just find it hard to believe that if the populace voted, we opt in, that y'all would turn around and opt out of it. I understand it. I'm not trying to give you a hard time, I'm just being honest with what the people see.
Did you hear the part about 80% of the school districts are opting out? 80%.
And what is their reason? I mean, that's the thing, and that's what I'm
It's just a
Dr.
poorly
Cummings
written
been to-
bill. People
Huh?
didn't, it's a poorly written bill. People didn't understand what they were voting for.
And so
Yeah.
for us, it's to protect the school system.
Including myself.
That's our job, is to make sure we have viable educational programs for the future. They're gonna be our future doctors, our future lawyers, and we have to provide a good education for them. And so if we lose this amount of money, then it's gonna hurt us. So, but districts, I do understand, so
sir.
districts will, all the districts around us,
Yeah,
every county around us is not just rural counties, but the Atlantas and the Gwinnett's, they're opting out too. And all it takes is just a quick look on websites, and of the 180 counties, it is over 80% of them opting out. So there's something that school districts are facing that's different than county and city, because they get to create a SPLOST in case there's a shortfall.
Yes, sir.
We can't.
see, I'm talking both sides of the coin, because I was in a school district, teaching in a school district for almost five years. I know a lot about shortfalls and the whole shoot match and what we're losing. So I'm playing both ends of the coin. I've got to support me and my other people as well as the school. I understand that. I just find it kind of hard to see that.
What we don't want to happen is you get the savings over here. And then because we have a shortfall, we're going to take those savings in a millage rate increase. And then what did we solve by this bill? And for the last few years, you've seen we've tried to reduce the millage rate. So when we have a chance to handle our business, we do a good job of it. And if we need to lower the millage rate, we can. We just don't need people outside of Lincoln County telling us how to handle our millage rate. I really don't want to take it from you. So you got the saving, but I got to run the school system, and we take it from
Would it
you.
have been nice if the governor had taken all that excess money they had and spread that out to all the
Yeah.
schools?
Sure.
Would that been?
That's what it should have done.
But you know, we didn't know it, but in 2022, when we went under 14, we cost ourselves $500,000, and we didn't know that. If you go below 14, you're automatically disqualified from getting equalization funds.
I'm sorry.
And that's why
Yes,
we
sir.
went up on the millage rate the next year.
State your name and name and address.
1209 Savannah Bay. So if you miss your millage rate for that year, is that why y'all went so excessive the next year on top of the 18.9% CPI increase?
That's correct.
See, where we're frustrated is, 2 years in a row now, we've had, or three, have had excessive tax bill increases. We have no control. We fight it, we lose. And it would appear to me that if our taxes are going up so substantially higher, the Board of Education should be getting a bigger cut of the pie, and it appears that's not happening.
Mr. Norman can attest to the healthcare costs on non-certified and certified. So those are some things we didn't have control over. So then we now have to pay for that. And so again, like you mentioned, there are some things we didn't know, we knew it was coming, but as healthcare costs go up, the burden on the school system has to pay that for classified and non-classified. So a lot of that was in that
Well,
increase.
very blessed to have lake property. Unfortunately, like Mr. Hunter, I mentioned, so this is unsustainable tax growth for our wallet. And then you mentioned insurance. Well, there's a lot of factors out there outside of just taxes that are impacting everybody in this room.
That's right.
And I just kind of wonder where all the money goes. Healthcare is a great example, I understand. But that's where our frustration is. When your bills go up 11% on top of, 15, 20%, it's unsustainable.
I agree. Just like our light bills in the summer, I think it was this summer, spike in light bills from Georgia Power, and then now with the spikes at your home, guess what? We're going to see a spike in Georgia Power as well to heat and cool the building. So I totally understand where you're coming from.
So going back to your graph here, y'all had a good year 23, dropped the millage rate a little bit this year.
That's where a lot of that would come from. That wasn't just raising tax.
That's right. That's right.
I don't know if he was finished.
Yes,
Okay, thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.
Frankie Rachel's, I live on 4599 and 220. And I understand, I came here to learn, try to figure this out. The taxes are going to be the taxes. You're going to have the money. You just got to figure out a way to get it. Is it more fair to do it through the homestead exemption, or is it more fair to do it through an increase in the millage rate? Because some of the frustration I think some of the people are having is when their property gets reassessed every year. And it's more than they think they should. This bill seems to be limiting that. So you're still gonna get the same amount of money, but you're gonna get it from a bigger pool of people in the county. Like people that's, their properties didn't get reassessed. That's what I'm seeing, what I'm wondering, is that more fair? Is that a better way to get it through a millage increase? Or is it better to get it through a property value increase?
That's a good point. And
That's a
again,
good
I
question.
would just hate to, you get the savings and then I increase a meal.
We're gonna
meal and a
pay-
half.
I understand we're gonna pay the same amount of taxes no matter what, but the people have gotta get paid, the school's gonna get its money. And I don't believe anybody's wasting money.
I will say,
You got, I mean, I grew up here, I know some of y'all,
It's so much of it we have nothing to do with. Salaries are 85%, so I mean,
it's
not a whole lot of cut unless you cut teachers.
You can't do that.
And that's what we're dealing with so much stuff, just like the insurance. All right, a lot of that stuff the state gives money for, the insurance and that. But anyway, the non-certified people doesn't give it for us. So there's a lot of people that we insure that comes directly out of our general fund, and so it's dumped down on the school board, and it's basically left for us to figure out how to fix it.
What about the impact money from the federal government?
that's where we need to be
Yeah,
fighting.
that's what we need to do.
I mean,
How
is there
much do we
some way
get?
We can all just,
$275,000 for all the core property in the whole county.
That's all we
Yeah.
receive.
that's ridiculous.
That's all we receive.
Yeah, we'd love to do something about that. That would be
What
wonderful.
can we do is the citizens, I mean, what can we do? Is there some way, can we write somebody? Is there some way we?
I'm
can-
sure you could write the
US.
different representatives. Yeah.
Oh, it'd be your
Representatives.
congressional
Yeah,
district.
Yeah,
It'd be your
that would be in
federal.
the congressional.
Organize as the citizens.
Okay, I've said that all along, and we're not guaranteed to get that. Now,
Right.
we just about get it every year. I don't know of a year that we haven't got it.
Did we get it the last two? Did we miss out a couple?
There's some years
No.
we don't get it.
Yeah, it's been years that we haven't got it, but, $275,000 for all the core property is,
Well, then I think anything that the Corps logs off that property, we ought to get a taste of. I mean,
That would be big
I
this
agree with you
year.
100%.
Good point.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
My name's John Finnegan, 1143 Savannah Bay Drive. I just want to recap and make sure that I understood. So when we all went to the polls in November, we voted, in my case, I wanted to opt, in, which was the majority vote. After we made a majority vote, then was it the local townships that got together, the county council then made the decision to opt out? Because it made sense financially for the county, is that what I understand? And then it was incorrectly filed as an opt-out, and now we're having to reissue these meetings?
No, sir.
No?
That's why I started with the timeline.
Okay,
That was a total misunderstanding, miscommunication.
okay,
But no, we followed it to the letter of the law.
Okay.
We couldn't do anything in December. The law became effective January 1st. And January 14th is when we met and said we would file the paperwork for the intent to opt out. So we haven't decided.
who were the vote, I mean, without giving me a specific list, in very general terms, who in the county made the decision to overturn our majority vote? The county council?
Now, the county is opting in. They're not opting out.
The
It's
county
just the school
themselves
board.
opted in, yeah. Well, that's what they're looking at. I don't think they've made a decision
Not only
yet
they
either.
made a decision, but yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm just trying to figure out, I mean, if you've already overturned what we wanted once, what's going to stop you from doing it twice? That's a legitimate question, and I want to see the school be funded. I happen to be 58 years old, I don't have a child. In fact, I don't think anybody in our entire neighborhood has a child. So when we see the dollar amounts that are involved in our tax bill, it's for the good of the future, we understand that we need to plant those seeds now. But again, as I've come, and I've been very fortunate living all throughout the United States, from California to Missouri, and I've never seen so many opportunities to where we speak as a voter, and we say, this is what we would like, only to have something that we wanted to be overturned. So if we've already made that decision to where we didn't want to go with the majority, why are we even having the meetings if you're gonna do it to us again?
We have not voted to opt out. That's what these meetings are for. And then
Okay.
we're taking this information
And that's the
back.
way
making
the
a
bill was
decision.
written. The bill was written as so if we opted in, we didn't have to do anything.
Right.
We had to vote to have an intent to opt out. And then once we intended to opt out, then we had to have 3 hearings to listen to the community. And that's the reason we're having the hearings, because with our intent to opt out, then it has to be a discussion there. We have to hear from you, have to discuss it. Our decision won't be made until like March 1st.
And I'm good with that. As a person that pays taxes, I've worked as a firefighter. I recently had to retire from an injury. So I'm on a fixed budget. And so literally when I have a $9,800 tax bill for all the things show up in my mailbox, it just takes my breath away. Now, when I started to research, our tax bills, and I think the gentleman, I'm sorry, I don't know anybody's name because I keep going on to myself, but I know that parts of the county, received 0 tax increase, and mine somehow went up 14% from year to year. And again, I don't want to stymie anything that we're doing with the school district or our county budget, but when is enough on our end? When are you going, and when I say you, I'm obviously not being singular, but when is the county going to, give us a little bit of a break, So, thank you for putting on the hearings and the information, it's wonderful.
To piggyback off the gentleman up front, if we don't take the full rollback this year, we have to have 3 budget hearings. And again, I want you to trust us, so when you come to those meetings, that's when we lay out how much we're paying for this. And so you get the chance to hear, what are we doing with those funds? So if we get equalization, then what are we doing with those funds? And at that time, you can see and hear all about what the school board is doing with those funds. I did see a hand up.
Yes, sir. Mr. Rain?
Paul Rain in Savannah Bay, also. Imagine that.
So got the Savannah Bay clan here, that's what it is.
Because when I went to get the tax assessment numbers, they had specifically raised our community's
Oh,
taxes.
yeah.
But that's not us.
I understand that it's not
No,
you.
but you do get a little kicker out that because it helps.
Right, but we're talking the assessment of it and
So-
how often.
And that's
not
why
us.
the millage rate goes down. I mean, the values have gone up, and that's why we've been able to, even though the cost of running the school has gone up.
Well, we feel like we're kind of funding the whole school system and county right now.
Let me ask
So
you,
it's ridiculous.
let me ask you a question. Do you think that a property should, over the next, say, 2 or 3 years, you start off and you buy something for $75,000, and then the next year, you're taxed for $110,000, and then the next year, it goes to $150,000?
But that's the tax code, that's not us.
No, it's not a tax code, it
I'm
was
saying,
an appraisal.
how is it priced? But not us, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
No,
Fair-
no, no.
fair
See,
market value.
You still benefit from it, see?
That's why
By
the
the-
millage rates go down. But we can't go below 14, or we automatically lose $500,000.
Okay.
Still may lose it.
But I said, all of us have seen it. Last year, my taxes jumped over, what was it, 1,500 from what it was the year before. And it's because the appraisal went up, which means that everybody in the county got money. But it was interesting that it was only in the Savannah Bay area that it went
I
up.
think if you look at all the lake subdivisions, the property values have
Because
gone
now
up.
part of that, wasn't it, didn't they assess like a third?
They
of
do a
them?
third
Yeah.
each year.
Third at a time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
They
they're,
do part of it each year, the part of the county.
yeah, they're doing,
They don't do
they're
all of
assessing,
it.
they don't assess the whole county every year. And so that's what you're seeing. A third, they're doing like in thirds. So they assess a third of the county and then, each like every 3 years. So you may see a section of the county that definitely changed and nobody else changed. And that's why. That was because that section was assessed that particular year. They don't assess the whole county every year.
It's coming to them though.
Sir?
It's coming to them the next year they gonna get it. Well, it's just a continuous loop.
And I think we're gonna see some relief as far as, I know like the houses in the county. In the last 4.5 years, there's been 350 houses built in Lincoln County. There's a bunch of houses going up in the county, and so I think we're gonna see some relief from that, with the people that are moving in here and building the houses and buying the property. I think we're gonna see some tax relief from that. And I can speak for this board to let you know there's countless hours spent trying to make sure that we don't spend any more of your tax money than we have to. I'm a taxpayer just like all of y'all. And the last thing we want to do is increase taxes, the same way as the millage rate. We don't want the millage rate to be no higher than it has to be. If you'll take the time to look at surrounding counties, we're under just about everybody anywhere around us. Most of them are 16, 17. We're trying to stay around 14. We're trying to stay above the equalization point, but we're trying to hold it back as much as possible because everybody you see here is born and raised pretty much in Lincoln County, and so they are interested in the best for this county, but also the best for this school. And so, you know, we're not here just trying to see how much money we can get. We're here trying to make the best decisions as far as the school's concerned. And my concern is I don't think this bill is what they intended it to be. I think when this bill come out, that they had good intentions. And I think that there's so many hands that got into this bill between the time it come out and to now, and then it's turned into a mess is what it's turned into. And that's the very reason they have House Bill 92 now, is my understanding, is to try to correct what this is. And so if I felt like this was something really good, and to this point, we have another month to look at this, but to this point, I've been very concerned about what I've seen and how it's going to benefit us in the future to, you know, you opt in, and once you opt in, that's it. There is no backing out of it. There is no changing it. Once you're in, you're in. We've talked to the lawyer about it and had the understanding at one time that if we opted out, then we, at any point in time, we could get in, but that's not the case. Once, whatever decision you make, that's where you are. So once we're in, my concern is we have the government telling us how to control the millage rate, that kind of thing. I personally think that the people you see sitting around this table has a whole lot more interest in your taxes than the government does.
Oh, I have no doubt.
Oh, and I'm just speaking
Okay. I
my
have no
opinion.
doubt.
That's
Like
where
said,
that's where I stand.
I've been in the school system, I've been before the boards, we talked, the whole shoot. The school board tries to do their best. I'll stand up and clap and cheer and all that. It's just that I have those doubts and questions that concern me, okay? It's like I said.
And I understand
it's one
that-
of those that you can't promise me that if you get that equalization and you get this tax, that you won't roll back or you won't reduce or whatever. I'm just saying that I see that. So,
In our meetings, that's, I mean, the last one we had, I remember specifically us sitting there discussing, well, if we got this much money, we can roll back a $500,000. Is it our benefit to roll back a $500,000, or do we leave it there to make sure that we're covered just in case? And we felt like we were covered enough to roll back that $500,000. And that's what we did last go round. And so, you know, up until last year, I think, it had been 9 years.
Eight.
Yeah, since the millage rate had been changed. So, you know, I think the ones that's been on this board, you know, previous has done a good job with trying to hold it to a minimum and maintaining a good school system.
do you know who sponsored that bill?
Yes, the Blackwell,
Whiteman?
something like that. He is the chair of the Ways and Means Committee. And he's also, now, he's the one who put out House Bill 92 to try to change the date from March 1st to May 1st.
That's Blackwell?
It's either Blackman or
I'm trying
Blackwell, I think.
to figure it out right now. I just looked at it today.
There he is.
Blackmon, yeah.
That's him right there. And so now, he's trying to get House Bill 92 passed because he knows school districts are opting out. 85% of them are opting out.
Okay.
So, again, I don't know if he's going to change some things in this current legislation on that bill, or is it just to move the date? I don't know.
And next year, they may vote to make us do it. You know, but I wish they'd have done that this year. It'd been a whole lot easier. I mean, if you voted for it, I mean,
Yeah, that's right.
why give us the option to opt out?
I wish they would pass a law that if you're ever over 70, that you don't pay any school taxes at all. I've been
And then the
paying for
people in
all
this,
these years.
the young people in this county couldn't afford to live here.
Yeah, I understand.
Any other questions?
You asked me about making promises. I can promise you as a superintendent, I'm going to cut anything that is not working, a program that's not working. If we're ordering supplies, just be ordering supplies. I gave a mandate to our last leadership team meeting. Just because we give you the money to spend, that doesn't mean you have to spend it. So I've been here 6 months, and that's the direction we're going in. We're gonna look at every item to make sure we need what we need so that kids can be successful. So that's a promise that you have from me and my leadership team. And these ladies and gentlemen will hold me accountable to that.
Any other question?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. My name's Kathy Oglon. I'm part of the Savannah Bay. I live at
Okay.
1125 Savannah Bay Drive. And I think, you know, you're hearing what we're saying, that the taxes of the school boards are a huge portion of our taxes, our property taxes. I don't have any children, but I support it because we live in this county. But it is a burden for us, and so I appreciate you with what you just said about trying to, we're all budgeting. We're all under, you know, crunch mode with the economy the way it is right now. So I appreciate you saying that you'll try to keep the budget to the minimum, and hopefully that will help all of us.
We understand.
You know, I do have one question. Opting in, there's a cap of a 3-year assessment period, right? Is that how that works? Whenever your home's assessed, it's good for the CPI for 3 years, and then it gets reassessed again. Is that
If
what
you
it
opt
works?
in.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
yes,
right,
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if you opting out, I mean, y'all could reassess property every single year if you want to. Or the county could.
The county.
The county.
And they have to do it every 3 years,
Yeah.
is the law now, whether they do it or
Minimum.
not.
But they could do it every year
They,
and
they possibly could.
be even more burden.
And I think something that I didn't realize personally, you know, in one of the classes we were in, and that is it 55% of the total state government is
52.
52 is public education. And I think a lot of the people are sitting back and looking at the amount of money that's going into public education, and they're looking for every way to pull back on that. Because you think about the whole state of Georgia and all of the budget for the whole state of Georgia, and 52% of it's going to public education.
That's
Naturally.
college.
That's colleges too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, colleges and all. So naturally, they'd be looking a way to pull back on that. So I didn't realize that much of the state money actually went to public education. Anybody else? Listen, we appreciate you being here because we try to be as transparent as we can. We have nothing to hide. We want you to, just like he said, if you want to come to our budget hearing meetings, see where our money goes, see what we're doing, because, you know, our goal is to have the best school system we can have on the best budget we can have to hold the money as low as we can for our taxpayers. That is our intentions here on this board, so.
And honestly, we have open door policy as superintendent. If you have questions about the budget, feel free to call me and let's set up a meeting. Let's just go through the budget. And of course, I'll get with the CFO and we can make that happen. We have nothing to hide. We're transparent. I'm a taxpayer just like you're a taxpayer. I was born and raised here. I love and care for this community, and I wouldn't do anything to hurt people in this community. I have a mom who's kind of fixed income as well, and same concerns. So what hits you hits me too.
If there's no other questions, I need a motion to adjourn.
We gotta go into executive session.
Well, we're not gonna do it
We're
executive
not.
session.
Okay.
Yeah.
So move.
Motion by Ms. Hyatman, second by Mr. Moncrief. Thank y'all very much for
Thank
being
you.
here.